Hello and welcome everyone. Gashimov Memorial finished some days ago and Magnus Carlsen had a great performance in this tournament. In this video we're going to analyze the game where he beat Anish Giri. It was an English opening: c4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, knight c6. This is 4 knights variation in the English. And now g3, d5, c takes, knight takes, and bishop g2. All this is theoretical. There are thousands of games about this line, but in this moment Giri played this move, bishop g5. It's not very common, but it's not a mistake. It's a normal development move. The main line in this position is knight goes to b6 here. But well, bishop c5, Carlsen castle, and Giri also castle. d3, h6, knight takes, queen takes, and a3. This is a normal move on this structure. It's controlling b4 and also preparing some kind of advance in some moment. a5, bishop d2, queen e6, putting the queen out of the line of the bishop. Rook c1, bringing the rook to the half open file. Queen e7, protecting this bishop and also clearing the way for this bishop. Bishop c3, knight d4, and e3 here. Knight takes knight, queen takes knight, bishop d6, and queen h5, improving the position of the queen. What is happening in this middle game, and what usually happens in this kind of pawn structure, is that black has a better control of the center, a little more of a space with this pawn here on e5, but white pieces are better. They are better located. For example, this bishop on g2 is very strong, and this rook here on c1 is also good, and they still have some problems to develop this bishop from c8. That's why black played c6 here, and in this moment Carlsen found one of my favorite moves of this game. He played here f4. It seems like a logical move, more or less, but if we analyze it a little, we will see that after e takes f4, it's not clear how can white capture, because if they capture with g, then e3 would be hanging with check, and if they capture with e, then they will have an isolated pawn here on d3, and black doesn't seem to have any real problem in that situation. So what did Carlsen think when he played this move, f4? What is he going to play after e takes? Well, the move he played on this position was g takes f4. Now this pawn is hanging and Giri can take it with check. In fact, that's what he played: queen takes e3 and king h1. So what happened here? Why did Carlsen sacrifice this pawn with check? And also, maybe there is another hanging pawn here. What is the idea? Well, this situation is not easy to understand. Even for strong players, it's not easy to evaluate this kind of positions. But it seems like after king h1 is the move he played here, he will have compensation, because he will have a good bishop here, a good queen here on h5, and this rook may come to the g file very soon, and there is a point of coincidence here for bishop and rook. So it seems like white will have really good compensation for this pawn. About the other hanging pawns, actually Giri cannot take here, because then he can play rook d1, and then the bishop will be hanging because the queen has to go somewhere. And also the other pawn, queen takes d3, doesn't work because then rook d1 and we have this skewer here, and Magnus could take the bishop. So in this position, Anish just played rook d8, and Carlsen improved his rook and played rook e1. The queen went to c5 trying to exchange queens, but then Carlsen played f5. Bishop f8 and bishop e4. It's improving this bishop and also clearing the way for the rook. That's why Giri played rook d5, because he doesn't want this rook to go away. Now he's threatening this pawn on f5. He's giving the rook here on d5, but if white takes there and accepts the exchange, then the attack will be over. Black will have some compensation for the exchange. White king won't be safe anymore because this bishop was important protecting light squares. So he decided to continue with good pieces and some attack possibilities and played rook f3. The idea is that now he can come over here over g1 with the other rook. b5 and rook g1. Rook a7 trying to protect over the 7th rank here, and then bishop f6. I think he's trying to play rook g3 on the next move, and he doesn't want Giri to play f6. Now g6, queen goes back, and rook d6 and queen h4 protecting the bishop. And the pressure here on g6 is very strong right now, and that's why Giri decided to give the exchange and played rook takes bishop. But after queen takes rook, bishop e7 and queen takes pawn, the endgame we will have is not too complicated for Magnus here. King g7 protecting this pawn on g6, pawn takes, d4. Maybe we would like to take this pawn on b5, but right now we can't because Giri could play bishop b7 and there is this pin here. So he just played d4, a4, d5. Now white is threatening b5, so b4, but then bishop e8 attacking this square. Bishop g5, and now we are almost finishing the game. He found this interesting idea, h4, rook takes pawn, and then rook c6. The bishop doesn't have a good square to go, and after bishop g4, rook f4, rook g7. After a move like h5, then white could play bishop takes pawn and rook takes h4. That wouldn't work for black. But after rook g7, it seems like Giri didn't even wait for Carlsen to move, and he decided to resign here on this position. I think this move here would be very strong. Yeah. And after h5, we could play the same idea, bishop takes h5. Watching Carlsen's performance in this tournament makes me think, is Carlsen the best player in the history, or should we mention Kasparov, Fischer, or Capablanca? Let me know your opinion in the comments. My opinion is that he's one of the two best players in the history, but he still has time to write his own history. So this is the game I wanted to show you today. If you want to see more videos about Masters games, give me likes so I can know it. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.